welcome to my art studio. It's just a desk next to my refrigerator. My name's Kristen, and today we are talking about my favorite art supplies of 2022. I used a lot of art supplies this year. I bought a lot of art supplies this year. It's the end of the year, so you might have a little bit of extra money in your pocket from Christmas or holidays. If you're anything like me, you can't help yourself when you walk into the art supply store filled with hundreds of colorful, well-organized things. Yeah, let's get started and go to the flat lay. All right, let's get my favorite part out of the way first, which is paper. I'm gonna do loose paper and then sketchbooks. For paper pad, this is what I've been loving. Basic, just watercolor and gouache paintings. I use this Fabriano 1264 watercolor paper. This is the cold press pad. I also have a hot press pad. I probably use the hot press a little bit more frequently, so I only have a couple pages left. But I really like buying this size, the 11 by 15, because I make a lot of 8 by 10 prints. I like to have my original painting a little bit larger than that 8 by 10 size. And these pads are not as expensive as some of the 100% cotton paper. The next paper I have used a ton this year is this Strathmore Tone Tan mixed media paper. It is this beautiful color and just super thick for gouache and watercolor painting. I also have used Strathmore's 400 series watercolor paper, which is also really nice. This is a piece that I recently did on the Tone Tan paper, and I just really like how the colors look on the Tone Tan background and gives you a nice base to start with. I really like this piece. Next kind of random loose paper that I have been loving is also from Fabriano. It is this black square sheets, and they call it drawing paper, but I have done a bunch of paintings on these and oil pastel stuff, and it's been really fun to work on black. I just really like this paper. This pad is like quite inexpensive too. I think it's like $8 or $9 for 20 sheets, which I think is a good deal. I don't have any of the pieces that I've made with this because they have all sold, but I can insert some of my favorites right now. Okay, and then my favorite thing is sketchbooks. I love sketchbooks. If you follow me, you probably know that, but we are gonna start smallest to largest. So the first one is this little Moleskine art sketchbook. There is a difference with the Moleskine sketchbooks between their sketch paper and the art paper. The art paper is a little more thick. I wouldn't probably paint in this sketchbook, but just because it is like a travel book that sorry, that's out of frame. Just because it is a travel book that I just stick in my pocket. I mostly use like Tombow brush pens in here. These drawings are kind of old, and then just like regular pen. But I really like the paper. It's thick, but not so thick that you feel bad working in it, which is kind of the ideal point for me in a sketchbook. This sketchbook is kind of a wild card. I picked this up in the airport in Austria. My family and I went on a trip to Italy this summer, and I brought a regular size sketchbook, but then I just impulsively grabbed this one. It has really thin paper, and it has this like gridded, like this very light grid, which I really like working on gridded paper. You're not as worried about messing it up because it already feels like there's something on the page. And I have really enjoyed working with this little book because you can fold it in half, and I just don't feel precious about it, which is kind of ideal for sketching. This next sketchbook I haven't used as much as I did in 2021. This book is from Nuna. They call them their inspiration books. I got this in a stationery store. It is just a sketchbook with a bunch of different colored pages inside. So I obviously haven't worked in it chronologically, but I've kind of realized that I really like working on paper that already feels marked up or already doesn't feel white, like totally blank and white paper kind of freaks me out. I really like playing in this. It's fun to just experiment and let the color of the paper kind of guide your color choices. So I'm not sure if they sell this anymore, but I'm sure you could find something similar. I will try to link things in the description. This sketchbook was probably my most used sketchbook of the year. It is the Talons Art Creation sketchbooks. Now in the UK they go by Royal Talons. I have a full sketchbook tour of this up right now. I will link it. Yeah, this paper is ideal. I will definitely be purchasing another one of these, just maybe not in white because it is kind of gross. The next sketchbook that I have been using is this one that I made. I learned how to Coptic stitch bind during the pandemic, and it is a fun pastime of mine. I do sell my handmade sketchbooks occasionally, but this one has watercolor paper from Canson, just like their XL watercolor paper. That's about it. And some of those Strathmore tone tan sheets, and then just some sketch paper. So yeah, I haven't used this that much because it is pretty, and like I said, I kind of like to work in books that I don't care about as much. These three kind of go together. They are all from Strathmore. This is the Strathmore drawing sketchbook. I just finished one recently, so this is a new one. Strathmore actually sent me these. I'm not sponsored by them, but I did do an interview with them just talking about my favorite papers. But yeah, I love Strathmore sketchbooks. The drawing one is my favorite actually, although I have worked in several of these mixed media sketchbooks, and I know a lot of people really like the mixed media. I think the drawing paper actually can tolerate some paint too, and you can see that the mixed media book is white, whereas the drawing book is more of a cream. And then I also have this one, which just has that tone tan mixed media paper in it. Oh, I have only done just this one spread in here so far, but it was really fun. It's not the most practical as a sketchbook because the pages are quite stiff, but I think I will have fun playing in this. This is kind of a like ugly sketchbook. I don't work in it that much, but it is from, like the outside isn't ugly. The things inside are ugly just because of the paper quality. It just has a ton of pages that are almost like printer paper quality. And it is from Danica Studio. I got this at like a novelty shop while I was on a trip. Just like a, I don't know what you would call it, like a card shop almost. Yeah, I've been enjoying working in this guy too. An honorable mention in the sketchbook category is this Midori book. These are really inexpensive actually. They're like $9 or $10 and they have a ton of pages. I use this as my morning pages, like journal. I really like an unlined journal. I think next time I will get a gridded one, but yeah, I only have a couple pages left and I use this literally every single day, and I just love that it lays perfectly flat. It's just nice to use. I like the paper. All right, let's move on to the fun and colorful things. So I'm going to talk about dry media first. So these are colored pencils. I pretty much exclusively use Prismacolor. You can tell that I have two different jars. These are the tall ones and these are the tiny ones. So I think you can kind of assume that the tiny ones are my favorite colors. I also got a pack of these Prismacolor Col-Erase color pencils that everybody uses. They are great for sketching if you think you're gonna need to erase. But yeah, I love the Prismacolor colored pencils. Let's get a paper out so we can swatch. It's like what this book is perfect for. So, okay, let's talk about my favorite Prismacolor color. It's inside of this little pencil holder, and look how tiny it is. It's just a baby. And this is the 90% warm gray. And I think I'm gonna retire this at this point, but the 90% warm gray is my favorite color that Prismacolor makes. It is just, it's not black, but it is so dark that it's almost black. And I don't really know how to describe, like this is the black. So some people might think those are the same color, but to me, this is just like so much better. And you can get like such variation with the Prismacolor colored pencils. I also really like the dark brown. And some of my other favorite colors that I use every day, light cerulean blue. Also, I got really into sharpening my pencils with an X-Acto blade instead of a pencil sharpener. If you've ever worked with these Prismacolors, you might have experienced like every time you sharpen them, they kind of break a little bit. So this way you can just be a lot more precise and then get just a bigger surface area for coloring. I use grayed lavender. These look really nice on top of gouache. This one is called Henna. So the way that I got started with Prismacolor is I bought one of those like basic kits that has like 12 colors or something in it. And then I just buy them individually now from the art supply store. And some of these are just individual purchases that aren't like the standard colors, and yeah, I would recommend doing it that way instead of getting like every single color. I really like Spanish orange, poppy red. This is like the best red. It's almost orange, it's so bright. And then I really like peach. Oh yeah, cerulean, no, not cerulean, chartreuse. Such a good green. Indigo blue. Oh, this is nectar, which is slightly different than peach. It's like a more red version of peach, and I use that one a lot. Mostly use colored pencils to like layer over the top of existing colors. I use this slate gray a lot. So yeah, it's like my palette. Other color pencils that I use, I really like these magic pencils from Koh-i-Noor Hardmouth. You can get these like at the front of the art supply store in the like kids section. There are these like multicolored magic pencils. I don't really like this one as much, but I like the tropical one, and then there's a primary one that I don't, oh here it is. The primary one is probably my favorite. Just really fun tool to use when you're feeling a little bit art blocked. All right, let's talk about pens. I used to not be a pen person. I was more of a pencil guy, but lately I've been really into pens. My favorite ones, I really like the Tombow Fudenosuke. They are this like hard nibbed brush pen. I use these for drawing and I use them for writing. I also address all of my orders using these, like write my thank you cards. They come in a stiffer nib and then a more flexible nib. I really like the flexible nib for drawing because you can get a huge variety of line weight. Another tool that I just started using this year is this Pentel pocket brush, and it is just a brush filled with ink, and it's waterproof so you can watercolor on top, but I really like the line quality of this. It's a lot more wiggly and free, and then you can also do like big, that's what this blind contour drawing was done with. Obviously the microns, I really don't like using these as much as the other ones. I just like, I don't know. I don't reach for them as often because the line weight is just like really uniform. But they are nice because they are waterproof. So if you want to use wet media on top, that's okay with these. Next are the Muji pens, Muji's gel pens. I bought 4 of these, and I wish I wouldn't have bought this one. It's kind of useless to me. It's just like this yellow, but I have been using these 3 a lot. I got the black, blue, black, and red. I just really enjoy working with these. They are like juicy and jelly and just designed really well. They feel so Japanese, and I love that. I also used, this is the only Staedtler fine liner I have. I just bought the red one. It is a tripless fine liner, so it's like this triangle shaped one, and I drew with this a lot this year. Pencils, just regular pencils. I use this 6B. I really like a soft pencil, so I used this one from Koh-i-Noor Hardmouth. I think that's how you say it. But yeah, you can see you can get a really dark line. I just really like dark soft pencils. And then the Blackwing Pearls, you can tell that I really liked this one and used it a lot. It's getting small though. You can kind of tell that it is a bit more shiny than this regular sketching pencil. And then I wanted to talk about markers. I have basically pretty much every color of these Tombow dual brush pens, but these are the ones that I use most often. So I'll just tell you the numbers really quick. This is 673. It's like a pink. This is 528. It's like a denim blue. It's like just a really nice blue, and then I will go over it. I'll go over it with colored pencil sometimes. This one, I think that's 658. Obviously I use that one a lot. The brush part of it is like destroyed. And then I use these neutrals all the time. They all kind of look the same, but they're not. They are different. This is N52, which is just like a nice shade to have with you if you just have a black pen and then this and then the white of the page. You have like white, a mid-tone, and then black. This is a little bit darker, so if you want to have something in between, if you want to have 4 shades of value instead of just 3. And then this one is 553. And I have bought probably 3 or 4 of these. If you have watched my sketchbook tour, you know that I use this all the time. It's like really buildable and pretty. And then the last one is N50. So it's another one of these neutral shades, but it skews a little bit more warm, so it's like almost purpley. All right, those are all the Tombos. I impulsively bought these Ecoline pens when I was in an art supply store in Italy. We don't have these in the United States, I don't think, at least not around where I live. So they are these water-based brush pens, kind of like the Tombos. And I just bought 2 colors, not really knowing what to expect. And I don't know why I got these 2 colors, but yeah, they're a little bit more juicy than the Tombos. And I like the marker shape a lot better. Like, I kind of wish that Tombow made their markers this shape because they just pack nicer into like a pencil case, and it's just more like markery to use this big chunky guy. So I think they do bleed through a little bit more than the Tombos, but that doesn't really bother me. Okay, next I'm gonna talk about oil pastels, or just pastels in general. I also, while I was in Italy, bought these Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s, which are water-based. They're not oil-based. I didn't know what I was going to do with these when I first bought them. I just bought the most basic set, and I basically bought them... Where is it? I basically bought these because of this case. It's just like this little metal tin, and I don't store them in here because if I can't see something, I'm not going to use it. So I take out all of my materials and like leave them out like this so that I can see everything. But I really have liked using these. I probably use the red just for like scribbling in my sketchbook, and they're kind of nice for sketchbooking because you can do this like scribbly crayon vibe without having it transfer to the other side as much as with the oil pastels. And yeah, it just really loosens you up. I really like these. I use the black a lot. Okay. A while ago, I bought a set of these Expressionist oil pastels from Sakura, and they just come in like a set of probably 12 colors, and yeah, they work. They're like pretty inexpensive, and I use them a lot. I also have recently bought these, which are from Sennelier, and they are artist oil pastels. These are so nice compared to the Sakura ones. Almost so nice that I don't want to use them. Like, I'm hesitant to swatch this because it's just like such a different experience. It's so flowy and like creamy. If you know Lee Alexson, she has been using these. I believe she uses the Sennelier ones. So yeah, this little organizer is how I organize all my oil pastels. I also impulsively in Italy bought these Stabilo Woodies. It says it's a 3-in-1 because I think it's like if you use water, it will activate into like a watercolory thing, kind of like the Neocolors, but I rarely use these, and I can't really imagine. I don't know why I got these colors. That's so strange to me, but yeah, I got brown and green. So yeah. So I primarily use gouache. Let me grab my sketchbook. I primarily use gouache in my sketchbooks. I use 3 different kinds of gouache, and they all work together pretty well. I use these Utrecht Artist Gouache, and then the Winsor & Newton Designer's Gouache, and the Holbein artist gouache. This is the only Holbein that I have, just this G540 for some reason. I am gonna make a whole video about gouache, but I prefer the Winsor & Newton paints. I just think they have the best consistency. I started out with gouache with just the primary set, so primary colors and black and white, and I don't think that if you are getting into gouache, you need much more than that. Maybe just like a few select colors. But I tried these out because they were on sale at my art supply store. I go to Blick, and these work okay. They are like a little separated, like the binder separates really easily from these, so I find myself having to mix a lot more paint than I want to. This is like on the other end, the Holbein is, where it's like really thick. It almost feels like acrylic. And I have noticed that with the Holbein gouache, at least in this color, which I do think has some white in it, that if you leave this on your palette, it dries really flaky and crumbly, whereas this and then the Winsor & Newton dry more like a caked watercolor. In my opinion, Winsor & Newton is the best. With watercolor, I don't actually use watercolor that much, but I do use this Opera Pink from Daniel Smith as an underpainting. I've never said underpainting like that. Underpainting, mixed with a little bit of yellow watercolor. This is just a print. It has the little glassine bag on it right now, but you can see that I used that Opera Pink as an underpainting, and it shows through in the sky and then kind of unifies the whole piece. So that is from Daniel Smith. Something about Opera Pink that you should know is that the color is not light fast. If you are trying to make archival quality watercolors, you would not want to use this color, or you can, but it'll just fade. I kind of got into acrylic painting this year. This is my little kit. It's kind of messy right now. I haven't done a painting in a while, but this is everything that I use for acrylic painting. Primarily, I have been using the Utrecht heavy body paints. I really like a heavy body paint. I like a thick, juicy, like thick paint. I don't like watery acrylic paint, so that's why I've been using the heavy body. So yeah, I don't have that many colors, but I do have these, which are, I didn't talk about this with the gouache, but they are from Masterson. They're just these little like keys, like paint keys, and they're really, really helpful, especially if you use paint that comes in these aluminum tubes, because it really helps you get all of the paint out, and then you can store it like this. So I bought these also impulsively at the art supply store, and I use them all the time now. So yeah, I have used these Grumbacher Academy paints, but they are not as good in my opinion as the Utrecht ones. Kind of in the same vein as the Opera Pink, I bought two of these. This is the Studio Acrylic from Blick in fluorescent pink, and then the Artist Loft version in neon pink. I think as far as my needs go, I'm gonna keep buying the Studio Acrylic. I just think it's a little bit more opaque. I use this as an underpainting for my acrylic paintings. So this is a not quite finished acrylic painting, and you can see that I used that fluorescent pink as a base. Okay, I wasn't sure whether to put these in the paint or marker section, but I use Posca pens all the time. Lately, these are the colors that I've been reaching for, plus red. And my favorite actually is this beige color. It's just really nice because it is just slightly different from the color of the paper. It's just different enough from the color of the paper to help you define shapes. So like this bird and her pants were done in that beige Posca pen, and then you can color on top of the Poscas with colored pencil, which is something that I love to do. So this bird was originally done in that beige, as were the little lambs. Yeah, I used this sky blue, coral pink, beige, aqua green, and then black and red a lot. And speaking of paint, I wanted to talk about palettes. I use this palette. I will link the Etsy seller that I got these from, but if you really are in love with the Sugar House Ceramic Co. palettes, but you either can't afford it or can't get to their website in time, you might want to just search on Etsy for ceramic paint palettes. I use this one for gouache. I don't really paint like this anymore. I used to, when I was first learning gouache, mix individual colors and make like a little palette and then paint from that. But nowadays I either paint on a big sheet of glass that I have on my desk. I'm not going to move it over, but it's just a big glass palette from Blick. Or I use these, which are also from Blick. Actually, this one is from an antique store. They are butcher trays, and the best part about these is you can use them with gouache, but you can also use acrylic, and if you spray down the acrylic, the paint just like peels right up. And I use these all the time. I really like that it has an edge, so you can mix a lot of paint. And so I have a small one, and then this bigger one, which is from, last night. I didn't quite clean it up yet. But yeah, you just basically rinse it off in the sink and it will become clean. It's great. More in the stationery category, I use these sticky pads all the time. They are from Mochi Things, which is a stationery site. So I have several different gridded sticky notes, and I use these to make to-do lists and sometimes to cover things up in my sketchbooks. I just love a good grid. So these are the brushes that I grab the most. This one is more of a tool. It is a Catalyst by Princeton, and it's like this little spatula scraper. And I'll sometimes use this instead of a palette knife to smear paint down on a page or like scrape things. It's just like a fun tool to have, and then also kind of doubles as a palette knife. You can mix with it. This is the only natural hair brush that I have. It is the Aqua Elite from Princeton. It is really nice for watercolor to have at least a couple natural fiber brushes because they do hold just so much water, and I would recommend just buying one, like a big mop. I have a larger one that I use more than this round 6. I use these two a lot. They're the Zen from Royal and Langnickel. A friend got me these in a set, and I probably use these two Filbert ones the most. They are synthetic and just like a really nice size, and I like the bristles. These two are from Etcher. They are Etcher's gouache brushes. I got these for free because I did a collaboration with Etcher a while ago. Yeah, I really like these. They are just kind of like basic staple brushes for me. They're not super soft and they're not super springy. They're like somewhere in the middle, which is what I like when I am painting with gouache. These are my 3 favorite round brushes that I reach for a lot when I'm painting. If you have seen my work, I really like round shapes, and like I don't do a lot of like super fine detailing. I like it to be almost more like cartoony and chunky. So I use this one. It is from Artist Loft. I will say that this has been glued on twice now because it just is falling apart. But yeah, I would rather spend more money on paint and then skimp on brushes just because I go through them really fast and I'm not the best at taking care of them. This number 4 round brush from Princeton I really like. It has lasted a long time even though I have had to glue the tip back on. And then this Simply Simmons brush, you can see that it is very well loved. It's the round number 6 from Simply Simmons, and these ones are really stiff, which I really like in a round brush because it doesn't split as easily. This is my go-to like little tiny brush whenever I'm painting like handmade clay things or magnets. And I would say that if you are trying to buy a liner or like a tight detail brush, this is the brush that you should pay the least amount of money for because it's just gonna get wrecked. Like it's just so small anyway that I don't know. I just don't think it's worth paying like $7 or $8 for a brush when you can get this one from Michael's for like $3 or something. And it's like the smallest brush that I have. Paintbrushes kind of fall into the category of tools, so I'm gonna talk about my favorite tools. I use this all the time. Get it? Haha. I use this all for bookbinding, and for a long time I just used like a tack or something pokey, but it is really nice to have an awl, and I actually use it for so many more things. This is just from the bookbinding section at my local Blick. Okay, this is a Fiskars X-Acto knife. I use this every single day. I use it to cut open boxes. I use it to cut cardboard. I use it to make cut paper art, and I really just like this thick grip a lot better than the standard like metal one. I can't stand the feeling of that like metal pressing into your skin, so I really like this one, and it's just very ergonomic. A tool that I also use all the time is this corner rounder, but you can round the corners of any paper that you have. For example, this little paperwork, you can stick it in and then it cuts a round edge. And I use this all the time because I just really hate sharp corners. I hate when they get like dented and stuff. So yeah, I use this all the time. It's from Amazon. I will link it in the description. I mostly use this blade to sharpen my pencils, but if I'm outside or traveling, I will use this little pencil sharpener, which is from Blick. I really like how it has a little container for the shavings, and it is a okay pencil sharpener. I used to be a big user of washi tape, but it was getting kind of expensive because I was buying all these pretty washi tapes from artists and stuff, and then I was feeling really bad because I was using a lot of it to tape off the edges of paintings and things and then having to throw it away. So now I just use this drafting tape, which is from Blick, and I got it in this big giant roll, and yeah, it lasts for a long time, and it is a little bit stickier than washi tape, so sometimes to avoid ripping my paper, I will just like peel it off and then stick it onto my pants or like onto my arm or something just to get some of the stickiness off so my paper doesn't rip. Okay, this is kind of out of left field, but I make a lot of polymer clay things. I made these bison magnets and these flower bolo ties. I'll insert some pictures here, but I used to shape everything by hand myself, and then I realized that 3D printers exist and people on Etsy are really good at making things like this. So I actually ordered a bunch of cookie cutters from Etsy from various sellers. I ordered this moth pack. I made these little moths, and I did an art market at a bison roundup this year. So I made a bunch of bison things. And I used this bison cookie cutter a lot. I just use like regular polymer clay, either from Fimo or Sculpey. So yeah, I just used another one of these organizer deals. I'm not sure where these are from. Probably Michael's. Cool, you made it to the end of the video. If you liked this video, it would help me out a lot if you left a comment just saying like maybe what your favorite art supplies of the year were, or if you have any controversial hot takes. You could start a fight in the comments, and then that'll tell the algorithm that lots of people are arguing on this video. So just go argue with someone in the comments, and subscribe if you like art content. My name is Kristen again, and I go by Little Tiny Egg on the internet. Yeah, I hope you have a great holiday season, and whenever you're watching this video, I hope you go make some art. Okay, bye.